we're back in the gun shop here at Iron Eagle Tactical along with Tom Abbott. And Tom has been so gracious to take the time to show us all how to be responsible gun owners. We've talked about a lot of things: safety, storage, various types of firearms. And today, Tom, we're going to talk about what?
We're going to talk about the caliber of bullets. You know, just as important as the type of firearm that you're going to use or going to carry is the type of ammunition that would go into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of uncertainty about calibers and hollow points versus targeting ammo, things like that. So I wanted to kind of take a deep dive into those types of things.
Let's get started.
All right. One of the things that you'll notice here on camera, these are the different calibers of pistol that we have available, starting from the smallest to the largest. And when I say smallest to the largest, I'm talking about the diameter of the actual projectile. This is your common .22 long rifle.
Right.
You know, start shooting these when you're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Not a lot of recoil because there's not a lot of powder in this small case. This is your projectile, and it is 0.22 inches in diameter. That's how these designations come about. It's 0.22 inches of an inch in diameter. So this is, you know, what they commonly can refer to as a .22 long rifle. Again, great for target practice, great for getting the fundamentals of how to shoot either a pistol or a rifle, because it comes in both configurations. When you're early getting into firearms, great one to train with. They're the most economical bullet and ammunition to buy,
Yes, they are.
Even in today's times. More readily available than just about anything else, and usually the cheapest. So you get a lot of practice. You can shoot 500 rounds of these for $50. You know, versus 500 rounds of this 44 Magnum, you're going to have to go to the bank and get a small loan.
Yeah.
The next step up, as you can see, is longer. Still the same diameter. This is a .22 also, but it's called a .22 Magnum. As we know, Magnum anything is better. It means more. So we put the two of these side by side. This is all powder in a much longer case. So it's going to send the same size and weight of bullet farther, faster, and it's going to stay straighter longer. Gravity takes over. These are made out of lead, so they do have some weight to them. So whenever the projectile is fired out of there, it's going to go until it starts to run out of energy, and then gravity takes over and is going to pull it back down to the earth. So anytime you can put more powder behind the same, think of this as the sports car or the .22 market. Right? So this is the Corvette. This is your Chevy Impala. Now we get into the more common pistol calibers for both hunting, sport, and personal protection. The brass cased ones that you see up here are my targeting rounds, and by targeting I mean practice. There's typically a round nose or a ball type of ammunition. You see there's no serrations or anything on there. This is a full metal jacket, so basically there's a lead core inside of a copper jacket that's wrapped around there. It does have a dedicated primer. So inside the firearm there's a firing pin. When you pull the trigger, either the hammer that comes down or an internal mechanism that basically has a needle that pokes this. This has an explosive package inside of it, small. Think of it as the fuse on a stick of dynamite. With the majority of the powder is inside this case right here. So primer, the firing pin hits this, primer goes poof, and then this goes bang, sending that projectile on out the barrel and down range. This is a .380 caliber, .380. So .22, .38. You can see the difference in between them.
Noticeably.
This is about a 40 grains as a weight. And I really don't have time to get into the full terminology of grains versus pounds and ounces. But this is a 90 grain bullet. So more than a time and a half for the weight on that. So all of these are targeting rounds. Again, round nose. That's what they call a flat nose, but still a targeting round. Cheaper to buy, cheaper to shoot. Again, more readily available, and what you want to use to practice with. The silver cases here are basically nickel-plated brass. These are the same cases, only they have a nickel plating on the outside of those. Why? Because these are your self-defense rounds. Again, .380, .380. Let's compare apples to apples.
But just a little different tip on that one.
Right. This is what they call a jacketed hollow point. Again, lead core. This has a copper jacket on the outside of it, but as you can see, it is open, flowered, and has serrations on there. The idea behind this is when it penetrates something, either that be a person or an animal, it will call a flower out. It'll pedal back to where you want it to not penetrate through and through. You don't want it to go, if you're in a self-defense situation and somebody's on top of you and you want to shoot them, you've made up the decision that you're in fear for your life and you need to shoot them. You don't want to shoot an innocent bystander that might be behind them or your family member that might be behind them. So you want a personal protection round that is designed to put the brakes on whenever it goes in.
It's going to do a lot of damage, essentially.
It's going to do a lot of damage internally, but it's
right.
also going to lose its energy quite quickly because it's going to call a flower out or pedal out and basically put the brakes on and stop. But it will create a wound channel inside that individual that will cause them to bleed out.
Right.
And that's part of what that round is designed for. So we've got the 380, and then we have the more common 9mm. These are actually the same projectiles, same weight. There's variations, but same diameter. The only difference is this is a slightly longer case, and even when these 380s came out, they were referred to as a 9mm short. But for marketing's sake, they needed to come out with a different caliber. So these are basically the same projectiles, much like the 22 and the 22 Magnum. There's just more area in here for powder. Again, more powder means more performance. It's going to go faster, straighter, and longer, and have more impact power when it does hit. So commonly carried, the FBI moved from this 40 caliber here. Let's skip right over the long ones here. And as you'll notice, KB, there's two calibers here that stand out.
Shorts and longs.
Shorts and longs, basically. These are our revolver rounds. In our last segment, we talked about revolvers. So this is the 38 Special, and this is the 44 Magnum. So these are the ammunition that would have came out of those two. Let's concentrate on the semi-automatics, and then we'll get back to these. So the next step up from 9mm is what they call a 40 Smith and Wesson. So again, .40. This is .38. This is .40. This is bigger. Also, the case is bigger.
Noticeable difference there, yes.
More powder. It's bigger in diameter, so it can spread out more. And it's also longer, so it can put more powder inside there. Again, you're pushing a bigger bullet. You need more powder to push it out there. The 40 caliber came about as a fairly new round, last 30, 40 years perhaps. 9mm's been around since World War II. The difference is in some semi-automatics, you can get more 9mm because it's a smaller diameter. Again, it's a .38 diameter versus .40. You can actually carry more ammunition in the magazine or in the gun in a 9mm situation. And any of these calibers I would carry for personal protection. These two, no. These four, yes. And then we'll get to these with the revolvers when we get to those. The granddaddy of the revolver, or the semi-automatic round, I guess, is the 45 ACP, much the 1911 gun that we talked about earlier. Again, round nose, .45 in diameter versus .22 in diameter.
Yes.
So twice the size, 40 grains, 230 grains. Lot bigger, lot heavier. Again, more powder is going to be able to fit into this case. So this has a lot of power. Its velocity is not going to be as high as, say, the 40 or the 9mm, because it doesn't have, even it's twice as heavy, it doesn't have twice as much powder, so it's going to slow down. But still creates a huge hole in something. So you can see the difference there. This is a 230 grain jacketed hollow point.
Just as a comparison, those two right there.
Right.
Hey,
This is your 380. So it's .38 versus .45.
Yeah.
90 grains in weight, 230 grains in weight. So again, 1.5 times bigger of weight, twice the diameter size of channel, and just what most people would consider stopping power. it's going to do the damage. Again, limiting factor, as we talked about in the 1911, it's only going to hold about 8 rounds in most of your guns in your single stack configuration. They do make some guns that'll hold 12 of those, but they make guns that'll hold 20 of the 9mm. So when firepower and the number of rounds that you want to get down range are important, you have to make that decision between 9mm, 45, 40.
Good shot, maybe not so much.
Correct. We'll finish up the segment with the rounds out of the 2 revolvers that we reviewed earlier. The 38, which again is .38 in diameter. This is a jacketed hollow point, but one of the things you'll notice, considerably longer cases,
Right.
which means a lot more power. Let's compare this one to this one. Same diameter bullet, considerably more power. So again, farther, faster, straighter, with more power. The reason they can do that in a revolver is these don't have to cycle in and out. They don't have to slide up a ramp, and that's one of the things about a semi-automatic. It will have a tendency to jam sometimes if you don't hold it properly, or if you haven't broken it in, if it's not properly oiled and you haven't used it enough. It can jam. A revolver is gonna, you pull the trigger, it's gonna go bang. And then we move up to the bigger .44 Magnum. Again, this, I don't have practice rounds with the .44 Magnum. No. It's there to, it's a great hog hunting gun. It can be used for deer hunting in some cases, but we don't go out and shoot 100 rounds through the .44 Magnum. So these are all personal protection rounds. The difference in color, the nickel plating, especially in a semi-automatic, helps it slide up the ramp better. It has more lubricity.
So the person who kills their deer with a .44 Magnum, send me a picture at kb@mylaketv.com. I'd love to see.
It happens.
I'm sure it does. But and I know there's somebody out there, and it's not. I'm not contesting it. I'm just saying, if you've done it, I'd love to see it.
So hopefully your viewers have learned a little bit more about the calibers of handgun ammunition. And I think probably in the next segment we need to get to the rifle stuff.
Very good, and we will do that coming up on another episode of Responsible Gun Ownership with Tom Abbott and Iron Eagle Tactical here on What's Burning with KB on Lake TV.